And we're back. Okay. Oh. Alright, anyway. Thought I deleted something. So, we just discovered that Lane is actually the Marquess of Caelin's granddaughter. Which, that's another thing that bothers me. Yeah, Caelin, with the C-A-E. And then we get Sita in Fire Emblem Warriors and Shadow Dragon. Or I guess the first Fire Emblem. It's kind of the same letters. That's been bothering me. But that's besides the point. Anyway. So we're now no longer going to avenge her parents. I guess we're going to go find her grandfather. Which, I guess we kind of had like a... We didn't really have an idea of what we were going to be doing. Just kind of, hey, we're going to go out and fight bandits and avenge my parents. Yeah, like, why did I agree to that? I guess she was following me on my journey. Well, maybe that makes more sense. Alright, so we're going to save that real quick. Maybe that's what it was, so just ignore me for that. Anyway, so we talked a lot about game or character design and PAX panels and whatnot. There was a PAX panel I did want to talk about, which we talked a little bit about board games, then we kind of got into character design almost immediately, and it was just a lot of dialogue. But this time around, I have a story to tell. So this PAX is in November, and it was in Philly. It was a lot of fun. I spent about a day there, and there was a lot of, well, you have like 20,000 people all playing the same board games. There's going to be a lot of grossness on the cards and such, so I had a lot of hand sanitizer, so somehow I stayed healthy. I believe Scott got really sick. But early in the day, I think it was like that Saturday, so they had panel on board game design, which... that was really interesting to me. I like print and plays. I think they're really cool. I was just, I haven't actually had the opportunity or drive to make my own board game, but it was a panel that just struck me as interesting. And especially since Scott's making his own print and play. So that's really what we all were in a group, we just went together. And it was so I was actually really surprised because it's a big board game convention. And I thought there'd be more than a 1-hour panel on how to design a board game, but... Alright, so this is our next level, by the way. Uh-oh, what's happening here? I'll get back to that story in a moment. This old man is being threatened by, yet another baddie, who does not look like he's had much of a shave or a shower in quite a long time. Uh-oh. The manicotti. There's probably a better way to pronounce that, but in my brain it's always manicotti, which, fittingly enough, I think that's Italian for sleeves, little sleeves. So it's fitting that my tactician's called Sleeves. Yeah, I wasn't thinking about that when I first made it, and now I'm like, I looked it up afterwards, like, what is the manicotti before I played this episode, and sure enough, well, it's a pasta, but it's a tube pasta. I guess it looks like sleeves. I don't know Italian. I just like pasta. This guy's Glass. Oh, okay, that's a name. That's peerless, like how you peer through glass? Maybe? I don't know, that's a stretch. Anyway, so this guy's gonna take over a temple to steal some sword because he's Glass, the swordsman, I guess. I don't know. Makes sense, totally. And, alright, so we're gonna try to, I guess, save this temple and steal this sword. We'll see what happens. Is this like a King Arthur kind of situation where he can't actually use it? Because he's not the righteous king of England? Anyway, so back to the PAX story. Forgive me, my pronunciation's probably terrible here. I believe it was, Ignacy Trevicek, I want to say his name was? But he's the guy that he designed Robinson Crusoe, the board game, among others, so he's pretty well known in terms of making popular board games. But he is quite the guy with opinions, I will say that. He is a realist, and he was upfront and pretty straightforward and honest with us. There's about maybe 30 people in the room. It was kind of a small conference room kind of situation. And he just said, like, look, I'm going to spend the first half hour of this talk telling you why not to design video games, and then we'll talk design. And sure enough, people were actually leaving, which is kind of unfortunate because, like, there was some pretty good information afterwards. And he didn't really talk too much about the design of the board games, but really just how you take an idea and you start developing it. And eventually you just find people to playtest. And he'd always kind of make fun of people that were playtesting, like, I just play a game and that's playtesting. And he's like, no, that's not. You want to find a guy that will do what you say and just kind of work through the mechanics and doesn't say anything. Then you find someone who wants to actively break the game. And I think that's actually really interesting. Like, it's kind of like, I guess you can't really bug test in board games versus video games. So you find someone that just finds flaws in the rules. And really, that kind of relates back to something that was, overall, it was a really good panel. Just eye-opening and bit of a downer. But overall, it was really interesting, inspiring, I guess you could say, in terms of wanting to design a board game. Made me want to go out there and just try some ideas. Oh, we're gonna learn about visiting homes here. So a big point of what I'm trying to say here is, it hit home on something I had been thinking about, which is just board games are the kind of thing, or even D&D systems, where you don't need to have a skill in coding or development with computers and whatnot to make a board game. You could just, in 5 minutes, have a piece of paper, a pencil, some scissors, and you have a board game. It might not be very good, it probably will be absolutely trash, but it's a board game. It's not hard to make one. The physical act of making one. Alright, so we're going to visit some homes. Pause that thought for just a moment. You're going to help, aren't you, the what? Ooh, more, recognizing her? Maybe she looks like Madeline? But yeah, oh, they're just telling me I can, it's kind of just interesting little bits of information, maybe as little hints. Eventually they'll start giving me items, which is kind of cool. But back to the board game point. It hits home to me because it's the kind of thing where a board game is just, you have an idea, just make it. I want to see, sometimes I just sit there and maybe I should practice what I preach, because this is the same with, oh, God, you guys look the same. I know you just put the marker over it, but I'm stupid. You gotta make it easier for me. Differentiate, please. Alright, we're gonna have Saint go to the village. Okay. So, I'm losing my train of thought here. Oh, they're just making it, saying, okay, you can't travel over the mountains really easily, but have fun. So it's gonna make me go through the wall. That's fine. The mountains being, okay, we get it. We get it. Come on. I'll move him here. And Kent's gonna go next. Okay, come on. So these are the mountains, by the way. They're not, I mean, they're tiny. I mean, they're human-sized. This guy's either that or this guy's a freaking giant. Anyway. Yeah, because to me, I mean, I've known people, and I'm not ragging on them here. I've known people that have said, like, oh man, I have this really cool idea for a board game, or even like a video game. That everyone does. Everyone has an idea. It's as much as like you play board games or you play video games a lot. You say, hey, I want to see this in a board game or a video game. Maybe I should make it. This is my idea. How do I get this made? And the board game's the easiest because you just take a piece of paper. It doesn't have to look pretty. You just have the mechanics. But the panelists gave a pretty good point of just ideas are going to be probably dumb. Everybody has an idea, and it's really just you need to make that idea work. Sometimes you have an idea and you could sit there thinking on it for hours and hours and hours, but really just try it. Just start making a board game, because when you start talking to someone about your idea, it's not really going to connect with them the way it connects with you. You've been stewing on this idea for a while, whereas this is their first encounter with it. So what are they invested in it for? Maybe you say, okay, I want to make a board game where... So it's just telling me I'll heal at castles, by the way. I'll wait here. Saint and Kent are going to have to go north for a while. I'm going to have... I guess I'll have Len go south. Maybe I'll draw these guys out. Anyway, losing my thought again. But it's... I mean, nobody's going to be as invested in your idea as you are. So if you want someone to be invested in it or sell them on it, let them try it. If you could say, I want to make a board game that has you all play as dragons and there's a treasure hoard and you're all trying to beat each other out for this treasure. You don't have to think about the mechanics behind it. You can just say, this is what I want the game to be. To think about the aesthetic, because that's really what's going to sell people, and that's what you're going to be interested in. If the board game has an ugly aesthetic to it, or something that's not interesting to you, okay, we get it. We get it. It's up to you, Sleeves. Do your thing. We're going to attack the wall. Let's use Lance, because it's stronger. Cool. And he's going to fight this brigand with the sword. Sweet. Yeah. So, sorry, I'm laughing at myself because I'm going crazy here. This is not anything out of the ordinary for me. But you have an idea, just make a simple mock-up, make a proxy. If you've played like Magic the Gathering or something like that, you always print out cards that you want to try, but you can't afford to buy because Magic the Gathering is really expensive and pieces of cardboard. Who said that? Just my opinion. Try to avoid that for now. So I'll let Lynn sit over here. I played Magic for a while, and it was just too expensive to really get into, and everything's constantly changing, and just fell out of love with it. So, but back to board games. I'll try to keep my ideas consistent, but I can't guarantee anything. Oops. He's got his lands out. So yeah, whenever I have equipped, that's what I'm going to fight with. That was an issue. Let's change things up here. Let's have Sane go around here. Attack with his sword. He will... Yeah, he'll clean up with that. Cool. Ooh, a crit. Oh, damn. That's a really cool animation. A 2% chance for that to happen. So, I've been running around this train of thought. I apologize. But essentially what I'm saying is, you have an idea. You're the one that's the most invested in it. Just, if you want others to really follow up with it, then make something that they can try. Just make a mock-up, like a proxy. And it's gonna suck. Unfortunately, it's just gonna suck, because no board game, I assure you that nobody that's ever written a novel or made a board game, even professionals, has made a perfect thing on the first try, or even something that's relatively good. They probably have some frameworks to start with, but really it's just... you don't have a good scope of what you're making until you actually have someone trying it. So that's why you want playtesters. And I think that's what Ignacy was trying to point out, was just, you're gonna have people that want to break your game, and that's great. You need different types of people to try out your game. You don't necessarily sit there and say, I'm just gonna play the game and see how I feel afterwards. You really have to sit there and say, I'm gonna test out this mechanic and see how it works, make sure it works well. Is it balanced? Can I break it? And there have been board games that have come out, that have physically come out, and have sold, and I sit there and say, how did this make it through playtesting? This is not well designed. It's unfortunate. And so Sheriff of Nottingham, I won't say it's a bad game. I think it's a lot of fun. It's definitely a very fun game for especially our group, just because it's a lot of, if you haven't played it before, it's a game where you try to get through a village with contraband, and you have to get past the Sheriff of Nottingham, which is a player. And this player rotates every turn. So I'm actually going to go get this guy, because I want the experience. Let's have Kent do some fighting with a spear. Oh no, I want him to wait, because otherwise he'll finish it. Crap. Let's wait here. Cool. So yeah, Sheriff of Nottingham. You have to. There are some. You get a little bag, a little felt bag, and you put cards in it. And the cards can either be like cheese or bread or something totally normal, or contraband like a crossbow or silk or spices. And you have to kind of play a bluffing game to convince the Sheriff of Nottingham, who's playing with you, not to. Should not use the joystick. To not search your bag. And we got to the point where maybe it's just based on the personality of who you're playing with, but it was so much easier to just, maybe we're all just terrible people, but it was much more beneficial to just not ever put contraband in your bag. Just load up as many, just luck of the draw as many normal cards as you can, walk through the gate, punish the person that tries to get you for having contraband when you really don't. and it just became less fun once we kind of figured that out. Now, a success story here is they actually had a expansion come out a couple months ago, I think. The Merryman expansion, which solved a lot of our issues with that. They gave a much more incentive for bringing in contraband. They had like missions where you wanted to bring in, you get extra points for bringing in 3 silks, etc. over the course of the game. And they also gave you extra abilities and whatnot. So it was just a thing where the game was very simple, and that's a good thing. Sometimes simple games really work out well. Whereas this Merryman expansion made things a lot more complex, but it also fixed a lot of the issues that we had seen. Now, maybe another group would see it differently. Maybe they'd pick up Sheriff of Nottingham. I'm not beating up on the game. I think it's a lot of fun. It's just we kind of figure out how to break it to our own needs. But there are probably groups out there that the people are much more deep in their personalities, harking back to that Please Understand Me Too book, which I didn't even look up the name of the guy. I'll do that later. The book is like right on my bookshelf too. I could just turn around and look, but it's too far away. Oh, it's telling me to seize it? That was maybe dumb of me not to pay attention to that. Oops. It's okay, I'll look back at that later. I've played this before, so I sort of know what I'm doing. Kinda. That was much faster than the last time. Alright, cool. Oh boy. It's like 22 minutes last time. Oh, he recognizes her. I am unscathed. He's a nice old man. And he's gonna give me some pasta. But yeah, so there are probably some groups that play Sheriff of Nottingham and they sit there and say they have deeper personalities and they can figure out the bluffing mechanic behind it. And bluffing mechanics are fun, but it kind of gets old with the same group. You kind of understand each other too well. We had this, I don't know if you guys have ever played, I guess the real name of it is Bullshit, unfortunately, but as a kid, we maybe called it Liar Liar, where you have to play cards in a certain order into a pile, like from a regular deck of cards. And if someone thinks you're lying, they can call bullshit. Or, sorry, liar, liar. And in that case, if they're right, you take all the cards back, and whoever runs out of cards first wins. And if they're wrong, they take your cards. So it was kind of... Ooh, the manicotti is glowing. That is Radioactive Pasta. Which, funnily enough, is my new indie band. Radioactive Pasta. I cracked myself up. Anyway. But that was a game where I think we played it for months and months. Just, we'd have downtime. My friends and I would just dick around with a deck of cards and say, hey, it's time to play some BS. Who wants to throw in like $1? Which was probably dumb of us. And it just became the same, like, 2 people winning just because, 1, luck, and 2, they could figure out each other's personalities, and we were all so simple. Uh-oh. And you are now the King of England! And she's just kind of like, alright, I don't know where England is, but I can leave the Lorca, because I am the last Lorca. This actually looks a lot better on the screen. This image. I guess because it's simpler colors and less... I guess the character's closer up. But, man, this is cool. This is a big part of my my playthrough of this. I'm like, oh man, she drew a really cool sword. I am like 10 and really into this now. I guess I was 12. Alright, so I think we've finished chapter 2. I want to say chapter 3. No, it's chapter 2. And I think, got the manicotti. I think we can call this an episode. So thanks everybody for joining. Oh, a little bit more dialogue. It's always going to be a little bit more dialogue, I always forget. The most famous sword in all of Sakai. It's in my hand. I mean, is it really well known? It was just like in a temple, just nobody using it. But I guess she's the chosen one, which they really don't kind of talk about too much after this, if I recall. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe we'll get more like... I mean, fate is always a big deal in Fire Emblem. I mean, hell, they named an entire game Fates, so I guess it makes sense, but damn, it's just... I'm nothing special, and I like this. I think she's kind of humble. She really just is kind of thrown into this whole, you're royalty, by the way, and she's like, I've never known royalty, I've just been the chieftain's daughter in the tribe. But just something about harking back to that character design talk from earlier, where Lyn, I like Lyn because she's just pretty straightforward. She's, I guess, a bit more human than the rest of them in this game. A little less on the trope end of things, but maybe I'm wrong. I do know in Fire Emblem Heroes, she is absolutely beast, and holy crap, it's pretty much a broken game when you just have her with a bow. Spoiler alert, she gets a bow in this game. Then again, that game is pretty bad with staying canon in terms of weapons. I mean, they gave Lucina an egg when she became a rabbit. Oh, who is this guy? Oh no. Lundgren. Oh, that is a straight up villain name. Holy crap. That is just like, I don't know a hero named Lundgren. No offense if your name is Lundgren. Ooh, feel the burn. Burn his soul bandits. That's good to know. Uh-oh. So this is Lord Lundgren, who is the younger brother of the Marquess of Caelin. And yeah, you can imagine what's going on here. Just so he's slowly poisoning him. That's not evil. That's not an evil laugh. All right, so I think we can call this an episode. So, Band of Mercenaries. So I'll see you guys next time, and we'll continue our journey with now Sane and Kent and Lindis. Rupeethon is a charity let's play and gaming marathon organization. Check us out on Twitch or at rupeethon.org.